When was the last time you saw a world chess champion lose in 18 moves? Well, that's what happened the other day when Magnus Carlsen was playing some Banter Blitz. We're going to take a look at that game. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. And do consider supporting us on patreon.com or PayPal. You'll find the links down there. So what happened here? Well, Magnus was playing some Banter Blitz on chess.com. That's kind of interesting. Not the Magnus Carlsen channel. Of course, Magnus's channel is Chess24. But it's quite funny because Magnus was playing with a backdrop showing the Chess24 logo on chess.com, supposedly big rival channels. And I think that's pretty cool. You know, he spreads his favors around. So there you go. And I'm reporting on this with a chess-based backdrop. You know, they all do a good job in their own way. So on with this game. So Carlsen with the black pieces, he was playing in this particular game against Luis Paulo Supi, who is a 23-year-old grandmaster from Brazil. And the game opened with e4. I think it's great that Magnus is just prepared to play not just, you know, top tournaments, top online tournaments, but he's prepared to play against anyone. I think it's fantastic. So he plays the Scandinavian, a rare visitor in, well, elite chess, but a very popular opening online and in club chess as well. Queen takes d5. And now the normal move, or let's say the most popular move here, is just to attack that queen straight away with knight c3. The queen moves over to a5. And then pawn to d4. And then c6. Or knight f6 there. Sometimes, because the knight is on c3, that pawn on d4 can be a little bit vulnerable. I mean, this is the main line, but that's one of the reasons why knight f3 is played. And you hang back with the d pawn. And sometimes, if black isn't careful, then you can get in d4 and c4. And that actually potentially gives you far greater control in the center than just using the d pawn. So that's one of the reasons why white hangs back with knight f3. And now, of course, it's possible to play knight f6, but bishop g4 pin straight away, that's fine, and bishop e2. So this is quite a modest start for white. It's not the main line, but it's a reasonable way for white to play. Knight c6, so straightforward development. It is blitz, no messing around. And here, either d4 or just casting on the king side are, I think, the best moves. But knight c3, in a way, this, to my eyes, goes against the grain of this system, because, you know, it's all about potentially using that c pawn, not just c4, but, you know, if you play d4, then sometimes playing the pawn to c3. So this looks like a funny mix of systems to me. And Carlsen goes back to d7 with the queen. Now h3, attacking the bishop. And here, of course, you could just play the bishop back to h5. Don't see much wrong with that. But Carlsen just takes on f3. You know, there's a straightforward plan attached to this exchange. And Carlsen's queenside. So rapid development, you know, that looks very reasonable, particularly for a blitz game, and castles. And here's the reason why Carlsen gave up bishop for knight, because it allows him to put that knight on the outpost on d4. And it even has the bishop within its sights as well. So I think in this case, taking on f3 was fully justified, and black can already look forward to either playing e5 or e6, depending on how white plays. You know, something like rook e1, then e6, and I think this position is about equal. But here, Luis Paulo Suppi played A4. Now things start to happen. A4, getting a bit creative here. But okay, we've seen this kind of thing before. It's about perhaps playing knight to B5. Let's have a look. But I mean, here I think best is just to play knight F6. And yeah, just keep developing. But king B8, which looks like the normal move, just to tuck the king away. And now knight B5 is starting to get a little bit tricky. You know, I mean, taking that pawn looks so bad. I mean, Carlsen would never consider this because there's an open A file. That bishop now, of course, can't be exchanged off. And that looks brilliant. Just D3. I mean, this already looks fantastic for white. You know, that's a dream position. If black wants to compromise, you could play E5. But I don't think it's the kind of move that Carlsen would even consider, because once again we have this position where that bishop looks great gunning down the diagonal. It's not that bad for black, but I think, you know, white just has a long-term advantage with the two bishops here, particularly that light squared bishop. I think Carlsen very understandably just takes off that bishop. You know, that's the real danger piece. But the queen comes into play. But it still doesn't look so threatening. But okay, a couple of traps. So for example, C6 is already a losing move. Queen G3 check wins on the spot. Looks great. Knight F6, probably the best move, and D4, and I think white is slightly better here. But Carlsen played A6. And, well, yeah, D4 is possible, but Luis played C4. Interesting stuff. Which looks a bit weird, you know, considering that this bishop hasn't developed and there's this big hole on D3. So this is really crude. Now, what happens if this is taken? Well, you can see what white is aiming for, obviously. Checkmate down the A file. But black can stop that with Queen D3. Now it's not so clear. In fact, I mean, I can understand why Carlsen didn't do this. Of course, he would have spotted Queen D3. But actually, after, let's say, Queen D1, you know, white's initiative continues. I'm not saying objectively this is good for white, but I'm just saying in blitz, this is not so simple. Okay, that stops Queen A4, but all right, let's play B4. And we want to threaten this again. Okay, so that gets taken. And now Queen C2. Okay, black takes that, and bishop B2. Well, white is a piece down, but for blitz, I mean, look at these guys. They're still on their starting blocks. They're back home. And suddenly we've got a rook coming over. There's an attack on these files. In blitz, not so easy to defend. Yes, black is winning, but against the clock, not so simple. So I can understand why Magnus didn't take it, but he played E5. And, well, he was still pretty confident. If you have a look at the clip on YouTube, well, we'll put the link in the description because it's really interesting to see Carlsen's reaction. After D4, he went, oh, at the least that's very creative. Now he started to realize that things were not so simple. And in fact, white was probably already doing very well. So after this was taken, bishop F4. So we've had a transformation in the position. White's pieces suddenly leapt into the game. You know, if black wants to compromise, you can play bishop D6, a really ugly move. And then, well, after this, it's obvious that white has a huge position. Or maybe B4 and B5 as well. And this, you know, Carlsen was already feeling a bit, you know, slightly rattled. So he took this and said, oh, whatever, I'll take it. Well, this is fatal. After bishop d6, simply rook a2. Now, Carlsen was hoping to escape with queen a5, queen f5. And after this, mate is threatened, but he just wanted to slip out via d7. But here he had a rude awakening. After queen c6, Carlsen resigned. Incredible. He went, oh, wow, that is dirty. That is indeed a dirty move, of course. If that's taken, mate comes after rook a8. You can put the bishop and queen in the way first, but yeah, it's basically mate on a8. Fantastic. Well, that just shows you that, yeah, even world champions are mortal. But well done to Luis Paulo Suppi for catching out Magnus Carlsen with this really nice attack. But I think it's great that Magnus just kind of puts himself out there and is prepared to play online against anyone. That's brilliant. And of course, it was like water off a duck's back, and he was on to the next game and no doubt winning a stack more. Thanks for watching.